Good morning, YouTube, Facebook, family, friends. This video is going to be on how I make my homemade caramels for the holiday season. This year, 2024, we are going to be going to Hawaii for 2 weeks in early part of December. So I have to get started on this early because I'm just not going to have time to get everything done and shipped out for my Christmas packages. I also wanted to do this video in case anybody wants to know how to make these in the future. It looks like in my future I might be having a joint replacement in my shoulder here in the next year or two, so I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to do these candy packages for my family and friends. So this is instructions on how you guys can do this yourself for the holidays. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the tools that I use for making candy, which is very important. The number one thing is your pan. This is a pan I got 2 years ago. It is something that I ordered online. The name of the company is Vigor, V-I-G-O-R. It is a very heavy gauge stainless steel pan with tall sides. I believe it's either 6 or 7 quarts. And with this pan, I can do 4 batches of caramel recipe, which makes my life very easy because I literally make thousands of caramels in the holiday season. Prior to using that, my standby candy pan was the Revere copper bottom 4 quart, which is no longer in production. You have to get these on eBay or Facebook Marketplace if someone's selling them. I wanted to point out something very important about when you're working with sugar or candies. The bottom of the pan has to be spotless. And this pan is not. I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up on the video, but there's just a little bit of residual film in the bottom and on the sides. And how I get that completely out is with Barkeeper's Friend. And I use an abrasive, soft, scouring pad to clean the bottom of the pan and the sides, and then I rinse it thoroughly, and then I clean it with Dawn dishwashing soap to remove any of the Barkeeper's Friend from it. It's very important that you do that every time you make a batch of candy, because if there's anything stuck on the bottom, it's going to scorch and it's going to ruin your candy. So for caramels, a single batch has 1 cup of sugar, white sugar, 3/4 cup of dark Karo corn syrup, 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick, and 1 cup of cream. And what I normally do is I add my butter to my pan. Turn this around a little bit so you can see. I add my butter to the pan and get it started, get it going slowly so I don't scorch the butter right from the get-go. And then I'll add in my cream, and I put half the amount of cream in the beginning, then the sugar, and then the corn syrup. And I stir that until it gets to kind of a low simmering simmer, and then I'll add the remaining cream. And the reason why I do that is to make sure that all the sugar is incorporated from the get-go, so you don't have anything on the bottom of the pan getting potential to scorch. So once you get everything in the pan, I have a couple other tools I'll show you. I purchased this on Amazon. It's a little silicone thermometer holder, because you will need a decent candy thermometer for making candy. I don't like the bulb type. They're not precise enough. So you need either a precision one that you can read really well or a digital. And I use a digital programmable one. For caramels, I go anywhere between 242 to 245 for my area. Candy is kind of funny, and you have to look at what your elevation is, because it does affect the boiling point. But I'd say for a good start, 245 is good. If you find out your caramels are too hard, then you can lower it to 242. For me right now, in Kennewick, Washington, we don't have a lot of elevation, so I go about 244 to 245, and it yields me a pretty nice soft caramel. As we all get older, we don't want our candy to be too chewy, because it you know, takes out crowns and stuff. So a softer caramel is more preferred for me. The other thing you're gonna need is a spatula that's rated at 450 degrees. If you use one just off the shelf somewhere, it's gonna melt inside your candy when you get up to those high temperatures. I do use a glass measuring cup for measuring my liquids because it's more accurate. And when I get ready to pour my 4 batches, because I'm making 4 times batch, I use a 10 by 15 sheet pan lined with parchment paper, because once the caramels have set, it just makes it a lot easier to remove from the pan and cut them. So let me get started. I'll get everything into the pot and working, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. I've snapped on my digital thermometer. It has presets on it, and I set mine to 242, which is a firm ball stage. The next one up is 250, and that's too high for me. So this particular thermometer will start beeping at about 3 degrees before that preset. So about 239, it gives me a certain beep. And then when it gets to the 242, the beep changes the sound. And then I just kind of watch it. But as you can see here in the pan, this rolling kind of simmering I've got going that just started, now is when I add the second half of the cream. Okay, that way I know my sugar is all incorporated and it's not going to scorch to the bottom of the pan. And then I just keep this on a medium heat. Medium. And watch my thermometer. When I put my thermometer in, I kind of have it, I don't know if you can see this from the video, but it's kind of slanted towards the center of the pan. And I let it touch the bottom and then it comes up. So it's not touching the bottom of the pan. If you touch the bottom of the pan, you're not going to get the right temperature of the stuff that's inside the pan. I really super like this little silicone thermometer holder. The thermometer does come with a metal thing that attaches to the side of the pan, but it's completely worthless. So this thing's pretty cool. So now we just kind of stay here, and I occasionally, you don't have to constantly stir it, but I occasionally come over and just kind of stir it to make sure that, you know, nothing's happening on the bottom of the pan. And I don't really pay too much attention to it other than just coming back and stirring until I hear that first set of beeps. So I'll come back and talk to you when that happens. Okay, I wanted to jump back on here really quick to show you kind of how high this bubbles up in the pan. So it's really important that you use the right pan for doing this. If I tried to put this 4 times recipe in a smaller pan, it would be a disaster. So just FYI. Okay, this is a little progress report about 45 minutes in. As you can notice, it has, the material on the pan came up, and now it's going, as it's cooking, it comes back down as it gets thicker. And we're at about 231 right now. So we still got a little ways to go. I just wanted to show you how the mixture comes up, and then as it cooks, it does come down lower in the pan and gets much more thicker and denser. Okay, I'm just checking in again. As you can hear, I got a beep going on, and my temperature is at 239, and it will kind of go on and off for a little bit because the temperature goes up and down just a tad. Once it gets to the preset of 242, that beep changes its signal, and then I'm going to go a little bit beyond that. So I'm going to stand right here and watch it till I get to 245, and then I'll come back. Okay, off comes the pan off the stove. We went to 245. Out comes the candy thermometer, and I just set that into a glass of cool water. And out comes my silicone holder, and in goes my flavoring. This batch I'm making today is butterscotch, and I use LorAnn Intense Butterscotch flavoring that I buy on Amazon. And each 4 times batch takes a half a bottle of this, which is roughly somewhere between like around 2.5 to 3 teaspoons. So I would imagine if you're doing a single batch, 3/4 to a teaspoon would be more than enough flavoring, because this stuff is super, super intense. And you want to really incorporate that flavoring so it doesn't, it's all kind of like an oily consistency. So you want to make sure that it doesn't just sit on top of the caramel. You want to stir it down. And one thing I didn't mention earlier, but I always try to mention in my canning videos, this is not an activity for small children because it is very, very hot and accidents happen. So you don't want small kids around this when you're doing this. Definitely not. Or small dogs that can trip you and stuff. You want to be, kind of careful. Okay, that's stirred up pretty good. Now I'm going to pour it into my pan, which I have lined with parchment paper. I'll bring that into view in just a second for you. Sometimes I have an extra person in here to help me hold the handle so I can get it all out.
I'm here.
Come on, Michael. Mama's not as strong as she used to be.
I thought you were recording.
I am recording. Please come. Just hold this, my love. Thank you so much. I get it all poured in here. We don't want to waste a drop of that. Each one of these batches, a 4 times batch, makes, I don't know, maybe 250 to 275 pieces of candy, something around there. Okay, just set it there, babe. Okay, I'll show you how it looks in the pan. I've poured it into the 10 by 15 sheet pan lined in parchment, and I'm gonna pause it for just a second. Okay, here we are back again. This is how it looks after you pull it out of the pan in the parchment paper. It's a 15 by 10 square of solid caramel. And what I do is I just start cutting it in about 3/4 inch increments. And then I take that piece like this and set it on a piece of paper, and I cut that in about the same, about 3/4 inch increments like that. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, like that. And I wrap mine in papers that I buy on Amazon. They're a piece of cello wrapper. It's a 5 by 5 square. It just makes it super easy for me to wrap. I set it in the center of the square, bring the bottom up, turn it, roll it. Then I twist it 3 times, turn it and twist it 3 times. And then I have a nice piece of candy that's wrapped and it doesn't stick to the paper. This paper is a lifesaver. I used to use wax paper, but that is a real pain. I really don't like using it. Since I went to this, I never went back, but it is spendy. 1,000 of these wrappers come in a package, and they're like $38, $39. But I wrap, almost 2,000 caramels a season, and the wax paper is just a nightmare for me. You have to pull it, you have to cut it. It rips when you twist it. It's just, I hate it. So for me, this is well worth the money for the amount of candy that I produce. I wanted to show you, right now I'm doing 4 different kinds of caramel. I do plain with walnuts, which are here, and I take my walnuts on a sheet pan for a 4 times batch. I use 4 cups, so a single batch, 1 cup of walnuts. But I preheat them in the oven at 350 and roast them for like 8 minutes, let them cool, and then chop them, so that the oils really develop before I add them. And you add your nuts in when you add your flavoring. So for walnut batch, I don't use flavoring, I just put the nuts in. I also do a green apple, which is the same LorAnn oil that I buy on Amazon, that one. And I do the butterscotch. And I also do a dark chocolate sea salt. That's a little bit different recipe. So when I do these, I might make another video for y'all. Okay, and that's pretty much how you make and wrap caramels. A little bit about storage. This year, like I said, we're gonna be gone for the critical 2 weeks right before I have to ship everything. So I am freezing these, and they're very friendly to freezing. So wrap them, put them in a giant gallon Ziploc bag as airtight as you can, and stick them in the freezer. They're probably good in there for a good 3 months. Normally, I would just wrap them and put them in a tote or a tin that's pretty much airtight, and they're good in there for 4 weeks before I ship stuff out. But for convenience this year, I'm having to freeze. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you all, and better get busy this next couple years, because I don't know if you're going to be getting your Christmas packages. I don't know if I'll be able to do all this. Love you all. And by the way, thank you, Grandma Jean, for my beautiful new holiday apron. I just love the addition of this rag here so I can wipe my hands. It's coming in really handy. Thanks, Grandma Jean.